Hey, what's up, everybody? Mogi Monster here, and welcome to Why the Fascination. Hold that thought. Forgot my microphone. I know you guys can hear me, but it's not the microphone I wanted. At least I'm hoping you're hearing me. Good to see everybody tonight. What's happening? Sorry, guys. That was very unprofessional of me. Didn't have my microphone hooked up. Let me plug this thing in real quick. It's always something. Never goes perfect. Oh, man, I can't even see the plug. Oh, here we go. How's that? You guys hear me? Little thumbs up if you can hear me. Oh, there, I'm good. Takes me long enough. What's up there, Mark? How's it going? Good day. Hey, Judy. Eyes in the woods. What's up, Eyes? I gotta turn my light up too. We'll get it together. Don't worry. There we go. Maybe that's too much. Yeah, my light broke. I had to fix that. My little ring light. It's been all over the country, been abused. I've been using this since I started this. And it finally fell apart. So I had to 5-minute epoxy it and resolder wires, and it works. So which one? That one's better. Anyway. Jay Fritz, what's up, buddy? Mr. Lee, what's going on? Chuck, what's up, dude? Howling Underdog Films, good to see you. Who else we got here? Yeah, it's funny. I was more concerned with getting a cup of coffee than setting up my microphone. I didn't realize it. I was like, oh, what's missing? Oh, shit. So welcome, everybody. If you're new here, you've never been here before, it's a pretty cool place to hang out, I think. I think everybody else, enjoys it as well. What I do is I put the link in chat, so you and everybody is welcome to join me. Just click on that link, follow the directions. It's pretty simple. All I ask is that you turn off YouTube in the background and just be on StreamYard so we don't get that nasty echo. But yeah, Long Island, what's up, Mike? Sasquatch, how's it going? Great to see you. It's been a long time. MPW, what's happening? Who else? Angel Nolan, welcome. Grasshopper, what's going on, dude? So yeah, guys, like I said, I will be putting the link in chat. I think I copied it. We'll find out. Yep, that's it. If anybody wants to join me, you can click on that link. Come hang out. So what's going on? What's new with you guys? Everything's good. I've been, I don't want to say I'm binge watching, but I'm like, I get, what? Yes. I'm not binge watching. Shut up. Yes. No, I watch, I don't know. I'm fascinated with some of these reaction videos. More with, like, Billy Wilkins. I know he's been doing it a while, but holy shit, man. That kid can play. And he's a Jersey boy. Marcus Veltri is another one I like watching. I'm just, with Veltri, it's funny. The people are all good, and then they flip out as soon as, like, the violin comes in. They're like, where did he come from? But, yeah, I've just been watching shit like that. And, when I was a kid, I was where's Dan? Daily Dan. He'd like this. I was always into wrestling when I was a kid. I was, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I'd been to some wrestling matches and shit, but I was just always enthralled by it. And so that's the other thing I've been seeing is like interviews, like The Undertaker and Stone Cold, and all these behind the scenes were just like I had never seen an interview with The Undertaker before, where it's just Mark, whatever the fuck his name is. Jim, what's up? Gemini Moon. Great to see you. Hey, Naoma. Welcome. So yeah, it was what are you laughing at? Cracking my voice? No. That was weird. Because I did. It's like Naoma came out funny. It just like I got caught up in my throat. So anyway, so I've been watching these old wrestling interviews, not even old. I mean, Joe Rogan had interviewed a bunch of people, but the behind the scenes stories that were just like, holy shit, you don't think of, but it was really cool. So I was digging it, just showing my age. Hey, Pammy, what's going on, sis? My sister Pammy in the house. Michael Haywood. Yeah, that'll break your leg, dude. He says, I love wrestling till my grandma put me into figure 4. She knew her wrestling moves. It's not an easy one to get on. I think I put Pammy in. Pammy, I think I put you in a figure 4. True story. I'm like, oh, this won't hurt a bit. Let me try this. Just sit down. And she's like, oh, no. But it's funny because the figure 4 can be reversed. All you have to do is flip over, get your opponent on his belly. Because normally a figure 4 is applied when you're sitting on your ass or the guy's on his back. Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Yeah, man. Iron Sheik. Paul Orndorff. It was weird because I was watching some of these. Another one was like it was 10 wrestlers that passed but didn't get recognized by like the WWE, be it due to whatever their policy was. If the guy was OD'd on drugs or if he committed suicide, they didn't acknowledge these people. I don't get it. They put in 20 years or however long they're in there. The Undertaker's been doing this shit for 30 years almost. Moog, you ever heard of the English wrestler Big Daddy? Not offhand. I've heard the name, but there's so many different names, like Big Papa Pump with Scott Steiner, but he had all different names too. So no, I haven't. Sheldon and Dawn, how's it going? Welcome. Good to see you. So yeah, guys, like I said, I do put the link in chat, so anybody wants to join me, click the link on, come hang out. We don't have to talk about wrestling. It's just shit I've been watching all day. It's like just these, brought back a lot of memories. Because I had met a few wrestlers. I hung out with them in, where the hell was I? I think we were in New York City. It was after a show. And my friend, she was a huge Undertaker fan. And she always knew where the wrestlers were staying after matches. So we'd go hang out at the hotel. And yeah, like I met the Big Show. That was I can't say I met him. I didn't introduce myself. I was too intimidated. I walked up to this guy and just kind of was like, I'm looking up, and I'm 6'3", and this guy is like a foot taller than me, and twice my mass. I was just like, oh shit, and walked away. I hung out with the smaller wrestlers. Finding the trackway. How's it going? Forensic Mystics, good to see you. Sharon Guy, how are you, hon? Hope you're doing well. Mr. Naw, what's going on, Claude? I know some other people slipped in here and I missed it. Mr. Hugh, great to see you. Ida Bustamante, welcome. Hey, Buzzard. My computer's hanging off the table. It's got a rock to it. Every time I go to type, it's like rocking back and forth. What else is new here? We've been, was it yesterday we went fishing? Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
We didn't go anywhere yesterday.
No, it was last Sunday.
Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get involved in other shit, so fishing gets put on the back burner. I hate that. But
Not by choice.
She just said not by choice. But we well, I did. I mean, I don't think you. Oh, you caught the last fish.
Uh-huh.
That's right, you did. She's stuffing her face with Chinese food. I'm gonna. You hear a lot of Yeah, that's her.
I caught the biggest and the last. I did. That was nice when I brought him. The very last one. Last shiner too.
Yeah, she's the last piece of bait. But you know, you got your money's worth. Well, my money's worth, whatever. As far as the bait caught fish. Yeah, we had fun. Caught a bunch of bass. Not a bunch, handful, few, couple, one. No,
I caught one.
She got one. I got about 4.
Yeah, but your 4 equaled my 1.
Don't kiss my ass. Hey, Leslie, how are you, hon? Crypto's Canada in the house. No, it's fun. It's fun to watch Stevie catch fish. It's Jericho got Jericho got his ear smashed by a wrestler he confronted about faking it. Jericho did a cartwheel from a guy 2 feet taller and 800 pounds and 300 pounds. Y2K, yeah, Jericho. Y2J was his thing. Chris Jericho. It's amazing how wrestling progressed. You know, it went from grapplers to almost an air assault. You know, these guys, these athletes that took to the ropes and did all these flips and you know, steel cage matches, and you know, these guys were nuts, and they paid for it. You know, their bodies are broken and shit. And I'm amazed at how many wrestlers end up hooked on pills and alcoholics, and props to Diamond Dallas Page, because he was a wrestler, but he reaches out, he gives back to his buddies, to his friends, and gets them rehabbed and any work, you know, gets them back on their feet. You know, keeps him sober. He developed this whole new, it's called DDP yoga. Something he developed, but I'm not much of a yoga person. Anyway, Papa Craig, what's up? Steroids, yes, is the other thing. But, you know, things they don't talk about that you know it's happening, but they don't talk about it. Damn, excuse me. Could have muted that, I suppose. Yeah, I remember watching the first WrestleMania with my buddy John. We were in high school. It was 85, I think, was the first WrestleMania.
Who was in the first?
We watched what?
It was, I mean, like the big match. Who was? I don't know wrestling, so who was?
Oh, I don't remember. It was Hogan. It might have been the first WrestleMania where Andre the Giant lost to Hulk Hogan, that was when it was time to change over championship. But yeah, John John Gill, he was so into wrestling that he actually became a wrestler. Never made it to like WWE, but he did the smaller venues and like local wrestling federations. But yeah, that was so cool watching that first WrestleMania.
Leslie had a question.
She says Dusty Rhodes was my favorite. What was your? I'm getting there. Hold on. I gotta scroll up. Sorry, guys. I think you just did. If anybody knows anything about doing a merch line with Teespring, Leslie's looking for some help. And don't just harass her. Just if you can do it, help her out. I don't know shit about it. I don't have merch, or how to set anything like that up. But yeah, that would be awesome. Help her get set up, and I think. Let me see. Nope, don't have it. Yeah, you can reach her. I don't have her email address available right at the moment, but if you go to her channel and she'll have it posted, probably in the about section. If you can help her out, please reach out to her and give her a hand. Ultimate Warrior is probably the most extreme example of steroid enhancement. He was unbelievable. He was ripped. But I mentioned like Scott Steiner earlier. Most of these guys, Triple H, these guys were huge and they were ripped. The Ultimate Warrior was, I forget, he passed, and I don't remember how. You hear a lot of heart attacks. And again, Chris Benoit, yeah, he passed also. Huh?
I'm sorry, I was reading Sharon said Jeff Thompson's in the hospital.
Is he?
So he's very sick and in intensive care.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm trying to find that.
Chat's going fast.
Yeah, it is. Well, we got 64 watching. Thanks for showing up, guys. I'm thrilled. Okay, where does it set up if you want to add new stuff? It's still way in the back. Yeah, I don't know anything about that stuff, about merching. NAC, how's it going, David? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Dina P, what's up? I kind of got behind in my... Wrestling is entertainment. So let's not call it fake. Those guys are athletes. They break bones. I think it was Owen Hart fell out of the rafters and died in the middle of a ring. They were doing this skit. Even Sting was doing it where he'd get lowered down from the rafters into the ring. And I don't even think he was scheduled for that night, but he was up there and supposedly he might have been pushed. I don't know. Doink, he passed away too. The original Doink. Then there was another guy that filled in for Doink, and then the original came back. But yeah, when he was another one, when he passed, WWE didn't even recognize it. Figgy Figueroa, how's it going? I used to know a Figueroa. They were out of New York. New York. How am I that far behind in chat, man? What are you guys doing in here? I'm like 10 minutes. Like, normally I don't go back that far, but we're talking wrestling, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, no doubt. Here we go. Finding the Trackway says, my cousin was a doctor for WCW. The number of joint fusion stories he tells is insane. No doubt. That does the bumps those guys take and the bruises and just, you know, as a kid, it was fucking awesome, you know, to see all this. Even later on, you know, yeah, you get away from it. I did anyway for years, but it was still good to, like, every once in a while see what's going on in the wrestling world and get bored with it real quick. And but I was a diehard wrestling fan. The Bronx. Nah, my buddy was from Port Jefferson. I think it was Port Jefferson, up in White Plains, up that way. The Bronx. Nelson, what's going on? Welcome. So many new faces and some old faces. It's great to see everybody, you know. And all of a sudden you see a face that you're like, wait a minute, or a name. I'm not seeing faces. And you're like, oh shit. Strangeland, how's it going? Raptor crazy. I think I said hi to Gary. If I didn't, hi again. Yeah. Suzanne, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Actually, you were here last week. Yeah, so you guys, if you're in the Midwest, hope you have some ice melt. Shit's about to hit the fan there from, geez, where? I know most of Minnesota, Wisconsin, you guys are looking at feet of snow coming at you. So yeah, be safe, because then there's an ice storm on top of that. There's like two different systems that are just going to pummel this country. So you guys got to be safe, stay warm, you know. So what's up, guys? Anybody going to pop on tonight? Where are we at? 21 minutes in. I think you guys like watching me sweat. That's okay. This is what you'll get. You'll get wrestling. You'll get fishing today. Music. What else? What else we got? What's that?
Dill. Reading what Dill goes.
Hello, Dill. Great to see you. Atomic drop. Hey, Jen. Yeah, I'll start doing impressions here in a minute. C. Campbell, what's up? What do you? Huh? No. Not that kind of impression. She's worried I'm going to put her in a headlock. No, like impressions of Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man. Just whack my microphone, my coffee cup. It was good watching you sweat, though. Good night, everyone. Thanks, Naoma. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Guys, definitely check out. If you guys are into, like, just like Leslie, Naoma's a narrator. Please go check her out. Open to Doubt is the name of the channel. Well, the channel is Naomi Finn, Open to Doubt. Go subscribe. Go check her out. She does a great job. It's not just, Bigfoot or anything like that. There's a lot of different things to listen to. So I think there's a little bit for everybody. And of course, Happy Napper. That kind of just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Happy Napper. Welcome. Aussie Sue, what's up? Mr. Hond, what's up, Rex? I know I was saying something and I cut myself off. I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, as you learned too, was it last week already? It's been a week since that show. Damn. Yeah, I big fan of stories, listening to stories, narrated stories, but I know Leslie's in chat. If you haven't subscribed to her, please go do that, because she does such a great job. And I hope everything's going good with your grandkids. I know she's got them for a week or two. I think a week. I think her daughter-in-law is there too. I'm not sure, but I hope you're having a wonderful time with your kids, because that's important with your grandkids. They're still going on. Killer Kowalski. I think one of the Von Erichs, I should say, they had a claw move too. Wow, my eyes just went completely blurry. That was weird. Ivan Koloff. There were so many. She said, "Yep, house is full. Awesome, enjoy it." Nikita Koloff. I used to run karaoke back east, and the karaoke company I worked for, we hooked up with local hospital in Hackensack. Well, it was the Hackensack Medical Center in Jersey. They had an organization called the Tomorrow's Children's Fund, and it was for childhood cancer. And they would throw a big bash every year for all these kids, these patients, and it was at this kick-ass house. I don't even remember where it was, but just this massive yard and everything. And we provided the karaoke, but there were professional wrestlers there. There was horse ride. I mean, it was just crazy what they did for these children. It was fantastic. But I got to meet like the Smoking Guns, Tommy Gunn, and the other one, Bam Bam Bigelow. He was another Jersey boy. He was intimidating. He had that flames tattooed on his skull, and he was a big boy. Michael's just naming off wrestlers left and right. Blackjack Mulligan. Wow, these names go back. But what's cool is to see, like, you had the fathers like Paul Orndorff, and then his son, is doing it. And Dusty Rhodes, two of his sons were doing it. A lot of family involved. Well, I'm glad you got your appetite back. She's over here chomping chicken wings. Let's see how it is. What are you doing? Did you say choking the chicken? What?
I didn't say anything.
Sorry. Yeah, we got some Chinese food, and let's see what my fortune is. It's just easier to do it that way. I don't sit there and I'll just crush the cookie and pull out the paper. But I think before I read it, I always eat some of the cookie. What? Then I'm doing a fortune cookie on. You're choking on your wing. No, it's funny. A lot of these aren't fortunes. They're like, I don't know.
Advice.
Bad advice. That's a good one. People do not fail. They give up trying. It's pretty profound. Still not fortune, but it's pretty good one.
Yeah.
Not an uplifting one, but it's there. All right, let me post the link in chat. Suzanne, it's just gathering more information for the next time. Yeah, I didn't mean to click on that one. I'm amazed that I actually clicked on the same thing. Suzanne was like, your hair is so soft, and I'm like, what? That was Leslie?
Yeah.
Oh, too funny. Who else is in here? If I did miss you, I apologize. Why do you keep doing that?
What?
I light a cigarette and you turn and look. I'm like, what am I doing? I
felt like you were looking at
got
me.
broccoli in my teeth. What? Jay, Russ, did you get rid of the toad?
The frog left this morning.
What toad? I didn't do that. Well, how does he know?
I told you I saw him up this morning.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't in the towel, Jay, so yeah, I guess we did.
Wait.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Lee. It's completely fake. It's a rug. It's a sham. What's up, Jeff?
Well, I'm sitting here in chat waiting to see who pops on with you, and nobody does. And then
hey, it's fine. You know,
start feeling like you're getting lonely, and then Stevie's choking the chicken comments, making you nervous, and
I didn't say a word. I didn't say not a word.
That was my fault. I heard something about chicken.
It's just natural. That's just the first thing that pops in your head.
I think he should shave the beard too. Wow.
Who?
I've had this forever. I don't like my chin. I don't like under my chin. That's why, this hides it all.
That's a big deal too. I mean, it's not like you just grow that back in 3 days. If you decide you want it back, it takes a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know. Yeah. The last time I shaved it, that was like 2008. I was in Nashville. I was living just south of Nashville. And I went to trim something, and something like my elbow hit something, but I cut it too short. So I took this big chunk out of it, or cut half the mustache. I don't remember, but I ended up having to shave everything off and start over. But
hold on,
next you'll be telling me to take off the bandana.
I gotta shit talk Mr. Lee here for He says, "Oh, it's Jeff again." And so I have to ask him, "Where's the UK Bigfoot report, Mister Lee?"
Really, dude? Now, you got a point there.
That's like
Mr. Lee.
4 months overdue. We were told months ago we were going to get that.
Oh, we're
and
only into the second month of the new year. We're about 6-7 weeks overdue. Mr. Lee.
I mean, for all we know, there could be 10,000 Bigfoot taking over the whole country over there, and we wouldn't know it yet.
No. He's gonna have to.
Lives
Yeah,
are
put
hanging in
on
the
the ball.
balance, Mr. Lee. Come on.
Murray, oh, how I've been wondering about you. I am sending you the good vibes, Mr. Lee. Right on. But yeah, Mr. Lee, have you got anything together yet?
He says I'm gathering evidence.
DNA? What? You got walking in the woods and scrape your shoes when you get home and call it evidence? Come on. No, I hope he does put something together. I'm starting to get curious. I've been curious. Now I'm starting to get impatient.
It's been so long, I forgot about it.
Damn it, Jeff! You had to go and remind us.
Well, I mean, even if he's coming up short on the Bigfoot, content, give us something. There's got to be some ghosts over there, some
Throw us a bone.
UFOs showing up. Doesn't he have any weather balloons around? I mean, come on. There's got to be something to talk about over there.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Okay, Kaiju, what's up? He says someone from the UK told me all of the UK reports he heard of come from people visiting the US. Leslie says, Jeff, your eyes are looking a little bloodshot.
Do they look? Well, I was in an ice shack for about 6 hours this morning.
In the bong? In the ice shack? Hot box in the ice shack?
It's a little hot boxy in there now and then.
Right on.
It was on the thickest ice I've ever been on, though. 32 inches of ice this morning.
Damn. Does that require an auger extension?
Oh, with the extension, depending if there's a couple spots in this lake where with the extension I couldn't get through. I mean,
damn.
It's not always the same thickness, but I'm guessing by mid-March, when it's kind of getting towards the end of the season, March 15th is when you have to have your permies off the lake. You can bring them out for the day, but you can't leave them out overnight, But, every year that's different. Sometimes the middle of March, it's great. And other times, middle of March, it's all slushy out there. So, but with how cold it is now, and it's just crazy. I mean, we're probably going to have over 40 inches of ice come mid-March.
I wanted you to read it.
We had to get off the lake before it started snowing today, though, or you'd be in trouble.
Leslie says their ice up there is pretty unsafe.
Yeah, I know in the Northeast they said there's a lot of unsafe ice, too. We hammered the crappies and the perch this morning, though, in about 4 hours. There's 2 of us. We caught a limit of 20 yellow perch and had 14 crappies we kept.
Nice. So what do you do? Do you just like butterfly them, fillet them? What do you do?
The crappies, I don't keep crappies unless they're, 12 inches or bigger. We're over a pound, And so, we catch 13, 14 inches that are pound and a half, pound and 3/4. And those are big enough just to fillet, I mean, crappies is not so much how long they are and whatnot. It's when you look at them from the top, how thick they are.
Yeah.
10 or 11 inch crappie is only about that thick, where 13 inch crappie is like that thick. Now once it gets shoulders on it, it's thick enough where you can just fillet them. If you were keeping smaller ones, you'd probably just have to scale them and gut them,
Gut
you
'em
know, or
out.
whatever. But the crappies and the perch both are big enough up here that we can just fillet them.
Yeah, we haven't really targeted crappies lately. We've just been going for the bass. Because for the crappies, we kind of have to travel to get to them. So
well, and they're kind of a nocturnal bite, you know, in the spring. So it's nice to just depending on when it's available. I mean, if you got off work at 6 o'clock and you're like, let's go fish for 4 or 5 hours, you'd probably go chase crappies off of a dock down there that has a light on the dock or something that attracts the bait fish. You can sit out there and slip bobber crappies and hammer them all night long, you know.
I actually I bought an LED light strip. 12
Yeah,
volt.
you can
No, it's
drop it
not.
in the water. Is it
Well, no,
submersible? You can put it in the water.
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make a light. You know, you take like a foot long piece of PVC, say 3/4 inch or an inch. Get 2 caps, but you wrap the strip lighting around it.
Oh,
And then
yeah,
you can shrink seal it.
If you go on Bass Pro Shops, I mean, you can buy like an 18-inch submersible LED light. I think they'll even turn green or white. And then above it, it has like a pool noodle, you know, a foam thing.
Yeah.
That's adjustable, so you can change the depth of the light. And those attract bait fish really well to where after an hour or so, you usually have crappies or whatever around it then.
Yeah, this you can change the lighting, the color, you know, green seems to be the go-to color.
Yeah.
And what it is, it's funny because the light attracts the plankton attracts the bait fish fish attract the bait fish. I've been watching a lot of shit on this.
It's amazing. You know, you see that I use an underwater camera when I'm ice fishing, and they have an IR light ring around the lens, around the perimeter of the lens. So when you lower that down and let's say it's 10 minutes before sundown and it's getting dimmer down there, and you flip on that little IR light, within 5 minutes, there's just little microscopic things all over your screen moving around of those microorganisms of grass shrimp. And
it's just, to me, ice fishing and even some other fishing has turned into a video game, man. People are dropping, you know, they'll sit on the ice and drop a camera and drop, you know, your fish finder and all that shit down a hole that you're fishing in. And it's like,
they've kind of,
they took the mystery out of fishing.
It's always been a top to bottom, you know, there's always been tools for that, you know. 30 years ago, the first Vexilars, you know, with a little transducer that shoots straight down like you do out of a boat, with a little, you know, either a dial or a screen that shows when that transducer goes down at 12 degrees, let's say, it shoots at a cone. So let's say you put it in a hole in your shack and you're 15 foot deep, you're showing like a 3-foot circle on the bottom. Anything that swims through that 3-foot circle will show up on your screen. If it's 5 foot to the right of it, you won't see anything on that screen. Now, all of a sudden, you've got side scanning and everything else where you can turn the thing around in your screen showing you what's 100 feet away from you all around. That's a little unfair, you know. I mean, if it swims in that 3-foot cone and all of a sudden you start paying more attention to your rod, I don't know that that's a huge advantage. But man, when you can go drive somewhere on the ice, drill a hole, and tell if there's a fish within a football field of you, and if you're not seeing enough, you just go drive to another area and drill a hole and look in 5 seconons if there's fish there.
Yeah, that's fine to scout, but
kind of cheating, you know.
When you're sitting there with a camera and everybody's like watching their shit with like they're fishing in this hole, but they're watching monitors, and it's like,
yeah, I compare
I
it
see
to
it on bass boats and shit where guys have a monitor right in front of them on the front of the boat. I'm like,
I compare it to how a lot of people mule deer hunt up here now with rifle. I don't even rifle hunt hardly anymore unless I draw, you know, an elk tag or something.
Sure.
But, you know, deer, even my whitetail hunting and antelope hunting, I all do archery. And antelope hunting with archery gear is tough. I mean, it's tough to get close to a speed goat, But
pronghorn.
But these guys that drive around mule deer hunting, they drive around in their trucks. They see one 350 yards away in another ridge. They get out of their truck, flip their bipod down, lay their rifle on the hood of the truck, and shoot it. I mean, it's almost harder to go through McDonald's and order a cheeseburger than it is to shoot a damn deer that way, right? That's not hunting.
No, it's not.
And I'm all about the fair chase principle. Fair chase is what it's about. It should. If you're going to harvest a deer to eat and you look at it as if this is something that God's placed on this earth to sustain me and my family, I'm not going to waste it. It shouldn't be easy to harvest that animal. It should be, it should take some sweat. It should take some scratches and scuffs. If you can just drive out and shoot something, there is no fair chase principle to that. And I don't want anything to do with that. But.
And I noticed that a lot when I was in Arizona. The last time I was camping, I camped on the mountain right in town, and it was hunting season. I didn't know, but all the good spots were taken. I kind of camped on the back of the mountain, and there were just people riding up and down, and they're road hunting. It's like, how many fucking guys are going to hunt this road for,
Mm-hmm.
It was just ridiculous. But I didn't hunt when like I'd go with my dad and I'd drive to Polaris, and we'd go and find a spot and go find a place to sit and still hunt. I couldn't just driving around hoping to see something. To me, I mean, you're sitting in a spot hoping to see something, but you're actively trying to be quiet. You're trying to, be a hunter. Driving around is not hunting.
Yeah. I like if we're up at the lake house and we're up there for a week and there's 2 days where it's cold and it's raining, I'll still get out in the boat and go fish for a couple hours. And, I always used to get a lot of crap. My dad would ask, why are you going to go out and fish? I'm like, how many times we go out on the sunny days and locate a school of fish and just pound the piss out of these things. It's not supposed to be like that every day. I mean, to go out and fish when it is cold and it is kind of miserable kind of makes you feel like, more appreciative of the days that are really nice and it's easy to catch them. I mean, you should have to pay for your sins a little bit in my mind. But
yeah, and like I explained to Stevie, and she gets it and she understands. You don't always catch fish.
Yeah.
There are those days but we killed them here yesterday. Yeah, well, maybe they're on the other side of the lake.
That's why they call it fishing and not catching.
Not catching, exactly. But we usually get something.
Yeah.
We don't usually get skunked.
Yeah, there was about 4 or 5 years where there was 3 or 4 go-to lakes for me. We'd hook up the boat and go, and I tell you, it just seemed like it didn't matter where I had 4 or 5 spots that I knew were the right depth, the right structure. But as far as trying to plan it out and figure out where should we start, we just go out, drop 2 anchors so that the boat was sideways to the wind, throw slip bobbers out with minnows on bear size 4 hooks, and just pound the shit. Just pound the shit out of crappies and perch every single time we went. That it got to be where it was fun. And I gave so much fish away. I mean, like my uncles and aunts, I'd stop by their house, say, hey, here's a bag of, perch fillets or whatever. And everybody appreciated that. And I enjoyed it. It's just after like 3 seasons of that, I started just feeling like I'm going to start fishing some other lakes just out of curiosity. Like lakes I know aren't a go-to lake. Maybe lakes that I haven't even seen a damn boat on for a long time.
Sure.
Just for the adventure of something new. And if you don't catch anything, that should not disappoint you if you're a fisherman. It really shouldn't, because you still got to go out. You're still on the boat, whatever. You're still out enjoying some time outdoors. And not catching anything makes you appreciate all the times you do catch something. If you count them every time, man, it's like, it makes you wonder why you even fish at that point, because, you know, you can go to
It
the
takes the
store.
challenge out.
I can go to the store and spend, you know, seafood up here isn't cheap. If I go to the store and buy, you know, a bunch of blue crabs and some salmon fillets or whatever, you're going to drop 60, 80, 100 bucks easy. Now, if I go pull the boat 2 hours away to a lake that's on fire, between the truck gas, the boat gas, the bait, I'm going to drop 200 bucks.
But you're going to have a good time.
11 to 20 fish. But if you're just like, hey, I have to catch fish every time I go, well, don't hook up the boat. Go to the damn store if it has to be that way. You know what I mean? So,
well, I like to catch fish, so that's why I go with the live bait. You know, now like we are getting into like practicing with plastics. I'm trying to turn her on to different methods of fishing, not just live bait. You know, now that she's hooked, you know, to the sport, now it's like, well, these are the alternative ways to fish. You know?
Yeah. They have these guys will go online, these guys with these fishing channels, and they do these challenges, and I think it's kind of cool. They'll say, okay, I'm going out, we're bringing the boat, or they're going to fish offshore. They determine where they're going to go, and they got the rod, you know, they got 2 rods and line and whatnot, but they can't bring their tackle box. They have to go to Walmart, and each one of the 2 or 3 guys has $20 they can spend at Walmart. So they'll buy like a topwater lure, some split shots and plain hooks with some rubber worms, and, you know, just that, whatever they can buy for $20, and they go out and see who can catch the most fish. To me, that would be kind of fun, because it's like, you might not go out with your tackle box. You're probably going to hammer them and bring home enough fish to clean and eat. But you do something like that, if you can catch 2 or 3 fish, it's like, it feels like this was an accomplishment.
You made the right choice in your bait decision and everything. So
yeah. I mean, it's kind of entertaining to make a game of it like that.
Hell yeah. And it's crazy because some lures cost $20.
Yeah, you know, yeah. Now these days they do. Some of these crankbaits with the rattles and the glass,
the Z-Man, the chatterbait, the jackhammer. Yeah, that thing's $20.
This deal says, please come on, no fishing talk. For the love of Jack Okay, well, let's.
For the love of Jack Stowe. That's funny. Well, Miss Dill, why don't you come on and change the subject?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can go back to wrestling or whatever, you know.
Yeah, we got to get Miss Dill on. She's got to give us the report on the butcher down at the grocery store, and is she getting any good deals? And I remember one night when she was on, she was talking about she knew the butcher real well, and they had an arrangement or something. She was insinuating, you know,
he had some good meat, huh?
I guess so. Some choice cuts.
Oh, it's always good. They're gonna go there. Just reading chat.
So I had Howling Underdog Films on last night. Chuck Morgan.
Oh yeah, Chuck was there.
Cool.
Chuck's
good
cool. I like Charlie.
Yeah,
I've always called him Charlie, and it's just like when he popped in, he was first one here tonight. So I was like, "Hey, Chuck." I that's only like the second time I've ever called him Chuck.
Yeah,
I've always called him Charlie for some reason.
When so we showed the promo last night of a documentary that he's been working on that he's going to release late in the year, like around October. He's hoping is kind of when he set the date, but he'll release it in like 5-6 different parts, you know, so it's kind of on string you along, maybe put part 1 out and a week later part 2 and kind of
Sure,
build up
sure.
But yeah, we showed the promo for it. It was the first time we'd showed anybody the promo. We played that last night.
Right on. What's it about?
Well, it's they're just out looking at he's doing this with what's his name from the Bigfoot mapping project. He's got involved in it. And so they're looking at kind of high value target areas that have had fairly recent activities in them, and just going out and
like LBL and shit like that.
Getting putting their eyes out, looking at the tracks and tree structure, anything that's around there, and I think that's interesting when you're, instead of saying, hey, we're in my backyard, there's this immediate suspicion of, wait a minute now, they're
Sure.
going to reported incident locations and just investigating them. And, kind of the cool thing is if you can get the person who's had the original encounter there and film them, telling you about it in that location, so you can kind of pan around and you're drawing that visual for people,
Is that what they're doing? Are they getting interviews?
Well, if at least when they're reading the encounter or talking about the encounter that was there, they're showing the location.
Where it happened. Yeah.
If you tell me, hey, this guy was in the forest 2 miles off of a logging road and in the thick trees, he did this. Listen, 2 miles off a logging road where I live and 2 miles off a logging road somewhere in Tennessee may look completely different. I mean, mine might be solid 90-foot tall pine trees, and that with no undulation, no mountains or nothing. And where you're at in Tennessee might look completely different, So I think it's cool to give that visual reference when you're talking about an encounter, So I think their documentary will be interesting, but
right on.
And if they kind of do it kind of like Breedlove and Petikoff did, where when they put out part 1 of the Alaskan intercoastal Sasquatch deal, they put out part 1 and they said, next week we'll put out part 2, or it was a 10-day stretch of part 2. They had everybody on the edge of their seats waiting for part 2, So I think when you do this, where if you've got enough content where you say, we're going to put out a 20 or 30 minute part 1, and a week from now we'll put out a 30-minute part 2, you kind of get a kind of a hoopla going throughout that series. You're not making people wait a month and then they lose interest,
I just saw Alex's one they did here in Florida for the skunk ape.
Yeah.
Wasn't impressed.
I've
seen some of his stuff and I was impressed. I was just like, you kind of dropped the ball on this one.
The Alaska Sasquatch one, I appreciated that one just because of it was an interesting location and really interesting the backstory behind it. The guy bought a property up there to build a cabin on. He was an retired commercial airline pilot who was a hunting guide and was, all of his friends were hunters. And they started going up there to this thing, getting it built and getting everything done. And they were getting shit thrown at them and screams throughout the night. And they had audio recordings of it. And they sent it to Doug and they sent it to Alex. And they sent it to everybody for like 6 months before Alex and Breedlove were like, okay, we're coming. We're coming there to look at this. And Doug had him on his show last Wednesday night, the Scott M. They're kind of protecting his last name. But he's the guy who owns that property and he wasn't really the focus of Alex's documentary. It was more the property, the story. But Scott was there on Doug's show, kind of giving him all the backstory and all the experience of. And I thought, honestly, the guy's funny. He's got an amazing sense of humor, but he's dead serious and he's genuine and believable. I thought the interview he did with Doug was almost more interesting than the documentaries, to be honest with you, just because you're hearing it from the horse's mouth, but
sure. And I always liked hearing, I prefer that firsthand account. not somebody. Well, I got the story from my friend's, cousin's sister, and I love hearing firsthand accounts because you're getting it from the horse's mouth. Trisha Arnold, how are you? Welcome. Mr. Vaughn says, video chatting with Christy Sy today. I recall the detail I didn't really consider before. In broad daylight, Bigfoot hair is flat, almost like anti-shine. So
I think Bigfoot hair, I think Sasquatch hair differs location to location.
Yeah.
As far as how coarse it is, how thin it is, how limp it is, I think really depends on the environment that they're in, and in the ultra cold climate environments, the hair's probably longer. It just droops so easily. It's so fine because it's meant to insulate body heat. Whereas down south, it may be coarser, or it may have a flat appearance, maybe still a void of a medulla core, but kind of a flat structure, so that it stands out off of the body a little bit before it droops, so that it can ventilate instead of insulate,
Sure.
I don't think that if you look at like white-tailed deer hair in Alabama versus white-tailed deer hair in North Dakota, I don't think those hairs look the same. The same species, but I don't think they look the same. Probably the same with black bears that are in Florida and black bears that are in Vermont. I don't think those hairs are typically the same exact. They have a different appearance. But
might have to start looking into that. I'm serious. No, because it's a good theory. I mean, I get it. Because the south it's going to be thinner for the hot weather, and the north it's going to be thicker for the.
Well, I had talked about this a year ago when you started paying attention to like Larry Badson's drawings of people's encounter, descriptions. He'd done hundreds of them, and he was starting to notice that we're not talking about. I mean, you can exclude from this example that the Mason-Dixon line area, the middle, east to west, kind of the middle, right? You might even discount Sasquatch that are in Oregon and Washington, because even that's more of a rainforest type, a lot of wet. They get snow, but it isn't like 30 below and 20 mile an hour wind, But when you're talking northern Idaho, northern Montana, northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and then all of the provinces across Canada, I would think that there's a reason why they would be bigger, because of the that anabolic rate that they burn through those extremely cold climates. It's the same reason why white-tailed deer are about 40% bigger up here than the white-tailed deer in Alabama. They have different climates that they have to endure,
Sure.
And same species, same genomic imprint, it's just they look different. And I think when you talk about different climates, one of the things Larry Batson said is that Bigfoot, like the descriptions in Florida and South Texas, was shorter hair lengths on the top of the head, whereas descriptions coming out of Canada and in northern Minnesota and even Washington State was maybe a little bit more drooped down or framing the face, longer hair. It makes sense that hair would be longer and finer because it's insulating and holding in body heat, whereas in Florida you're trying to get that body heat out when it's 120 degrees,
Sure.
So I think there is something to that. It maybe it isn't cold enough or hot enough for a lot of the middle of the country, east to west, to be affected. You might see a little bit of everything in those areas. Sure. But in Florida, it doesn't make sense for a Sasquatch to have hair that hangs down 12 inches. You think it would have shorter hair to really, and I'm not saying they cut their hair. I'm saying that's just how their body adapts to it. They just don't grow as long a hair, maybe, and maybe way up north they don't grow as they let their hair is capable of growing longer.
What's
Your
up, Mark?
typical black bear in Canada has really fairly long hair, like in the neck and the chest, versus black bears that you would see in Florida. There is an actual physical difference because one's ventilating the heat and one's insulating with it. But
hey, everybody in chat. Thank
Hey.
you, Suzanne. I appreciate that.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I am good. How about you guys?
Well, we started talking about Sasquatch instead of fishing, so Miss Dill doesn't hurt us. So
Everybody's tired of the fishing topic.
We didn't cover
one
that
of us
much.
has to find a
talk more about
Sasquatch.
wrestling and fishing.
One of us has to find a Sasquatch and teach it how to fish so that we can talk about both. Okay, and not
All
get in
right,
trouble.
there you go. That sounds good. That sounds like a
How was
good
your
plan.
show tonight?
It was good. It was good.
Right on.
Yeah, I had Angelique Benham on. I think she's been on your channel too, Jeff,
Yep,
right?
she has.
Yeah,
She has a
great
really
guest.
incredible story about when she was kayaking.
Yeah.
And kayaked past what she thought was a nude, hairy guy.
Oh, the good-looking Sasquatch.
Yeah, she said he was.
I know that story. I've heard that story 1,000 times.
And then realized this isn't a person.
Yeah.
That, like, was
Is that the one that came out with the child?
Yeah.
Yeah. The juvenile.
Yeah.
She was out with her sister. I believe it was her sister and her 2 kids. But she admittedly, she says, I like to smoke cigarettes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So she let them paddle way up ahead of her on the way back. So she was kind of alone going along the shoreline, and they were halfway across the lake ahead of her.
Yeah. Yeah. She was great. She was a really good guest. But I heard you talking a little bit earlier about Alex. I have Alex actually coming on my channel soon too. So, this is actually the second film that they did here. They were down here last year in January.
I think they spent more time doing Jeep shots of the Jeep going through bush than they did actual research. It was just, I was like, oh, right. But Skunk Gate, they're in Florida, and it was just like, that's
Russell, you and I know how thick it is down here. I'm telling you, a lot of the documentaries these guys have trouble getting to research areas because they're I'm not saying Alex is and Small Town Monsters is, but I'm just saying a lot of people that they don't realize what it's really like until they are actually here, and they don't a lot of times come prepared for what we have down here. And
I would say don't go to Florida to make a Bigfoot documentary unless you're bringing a drone. And even with the drone, you're not going to get a lot of good footage down into the trees, but at least you can get those cinematographic landscapes across the water of how far from the nearest little town are you. Draw that picture for people.
Like you can be walking in an area. There are a lot of places, especially in Big Cypress where they were, a lot of these areas, you start walking and you look out and you think it's like a prairie, right? Or like it's like this big open area. You start trying to walk out that way and you may get 50 feet and you sink, 3 feet down into muck and water. So it's like it's very deceiving. So a lot of times, even when things in certain areas look like they're accessible, they're really not. So
no, they're not.
It's very it's a different place. It's definitely a different place here. Yeah.
I think one helpful thing though for people to really get it would be to draw accurate representations of having a drone in the green swamp, showing the tree line over the water. Let's say you're hovering 10 feet off the water, showing the tree line coming up to the trees to where you can't see into them. Let people know how thick this is, and then just go straight up off of the water and cover the area around the edge of the swamp and show me how close is that nearest town. When I look at the Google Maps, show me where those backyards are. Right. Because if you could show me how thick it is there, and you simply fly a mile and a half and you're showing a swing set in a backyard,
Right.
that's pretty freaking crazy. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I'd want to see in a documentary of Florida. Is we're not talking about you being way out in the middle of nowhere and nobody's around. We're talking about an area that's actually pretty populated, but it has these super thick,
Pockets.
small, isolated pockets
Yeah.
that could actually hold these things, you know?
Mhm.
Well, there are a lot of isolated places here, dude. I mean, it's not, there's more isolated, there's more
There's
woods than there are.
No, I get that,
people.
especially when you're down in
Right.
the Everglades and things like that. But I'm just saying the green swamp itself, like where Matt's doing a lot of his work, when you look at that, you don't have to go that far through the air with a drone to be hovering over somebody's backyard. You really don't.
Mm-mm.
The whole perimeter of
gre-
that thing is a football field walk to
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, but the green swamp is not as large as these areas down here in Florida. It's not, I mean, you know, Everglades National Park and Big Cypress are,
It's huge.
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
like
well,
the two
my
of them
same
together,
point
I
to
think
that
they're
would
like the
be
size of like the state of Rhode Island or
so
something like that.
my
I
point
think
to
they
that
said.
would be put a drone in
know.
the air and exploit that point. Show people
Well,
how this,
you
even
have
though
to-
it's open,
but
it's
Jeff,
vast.
But that's only one
you have
aspect
to
of.
remember, down here, especially in Big Cypress, you have to be careful because a lot of that is native land and they don't allow stuff like that around. So you have to be super careful.
They
of
don't allow
where-
drones flying over it.
Yeah, because it's their air, like it's their, I mean, it is theirs. You know what I mean? Like you
It's a
have to be
reservation.
careful. Yeah, it's a very different culture, you know, than some of the other. They don't have a good relationship with us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Non-natives.
My
It's-
point
it-
was
it's-
is just
it's
in
a
Florida, if
difficult
you're gonna do a
thing
documentary,
to-
a drone's helpful to draw that picture because
Oh yeah, for sure.
you know, if
for
you're
sure.
doing a documentary in the Adirondacks, if you're up in Washington State, if you're in Manitoba, I know you don't have to fly a drone up in the air for me to get you're freaking off the grid, dude. You go a long ways and not see anything. When you're in Florida, I don't even whether you're in those vast areas or not, putting a drone in the air helps people get it. You know, I think Florida is probably one of the most misperceived places when people try to draw that visual of where would Bigfoot be in Florida. They don't even know what
Right.
that looks like. They have no clue.
No.
And so, you know, and you get like Monk says, you get in a Jeep and start driving around in that shit. You're really not drawing me much of a picture other than there's areas where it's like a rainforest, you know, and it's just like very, very, everything's green, everything's lush, everything's thick. And
It is. It's a jungle down here, or a swamp, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's that. I mean, we have mosquitoes here all year round.
All year.
It's not like they take the winter off. You know, it gets cold for 2 days, you get a break, but then by the third day they're back.
Yep,
Yeah.
they're
You
back
know,
in force.
somebody
And bringing family.
Somebody had asked when my book is coming up. My book's set to be released March 31st, I was told. And I was told it's likely that'll be before that, but they always set the date on the back side of the window that they plan on doing it, I guess. So
hold on a second. My dog was scratching at the door trying to get out. Stevie's like, I'll let it. I'm like, don't worry about it. Just relax. Like, all I hear is his knocking on the door. I'm like, what the fuck is that? It's my dog.
So Mr. Lee said gator meat is chewy. Just saying. I'm curious, has he had gator meat in the UK? Is there places where you can even get as a novelty? I know there's companies that like can it and you could probably buy it anywhere in the world, but you're buying a piece that's been in a can for a year, you know. I'm wondering, is there a restaurant in the UK where you could go in and order alligator?
Probably. But I think, didn't Mr. Lee say he was in the States before?
Maybe it was.
I know a lot
He's
of
been to
people are,
Florida.
you know, they think that like the tail, right? That's usually what people or restaurants have like on their menu is like gator tail, right? But it's actually not the best part. It's the jowls that that is the best part. It is the most tender. It's unbelievable.
It's funny how many
so
animals
good.
that's the case with.
No, fish have cheeks.
I mean, even large walleyes. I mean, the cheek meat is like
It's like the
the
best.
shrimp of it. You know, it's
Yeah.
like
That's a scallop.
like a scallop.
That's awesome. We used to cut out the cheeks on bluefish in the ocean. You know, we'd get these big ass bluefish, and my dad would just go dunk, cut out this huge, like a scallop.
It's good.
It's like I fillet a catfish. I waste way too much, meat. I should skin it like to a tree and skin it, but I just fillet it and skin it and waste a lot. I just don't take the time to get that involved in it.
Right.
Like I don't want to like this. I don't know. It's too much work.
It is a lot of work.
I just fillet everything.
Oh my gosh. Did you tell everybody, Russell, how you let me and Stevie almost go hang gliding? Right, Stevie?
So when was that? That was Sunday morning.
Yeah.
These guys, it's windy out. They're breaking down the tent. We get the tent pretty much broken down, but for some reason I got distracted and I started talking to the camp host.
Yeah.
And I turn around and these two, one on each end of this tent, the tent's just in full sail mode, just wide open, one on each end. I'm like, they're like, can you help us? I'm like, oh, excuse me.
I was like, Russell!
I just ran over, grabbed the thing, rolled it up into a ball and stuffed it in the box. But yeah, it was kind of funny to see two girls just like
I swear it
looked
was
like a damn
hilarious.
parachute.
I would have loved to have had somebody get that on video because that would like the best. That was so funny.
Donald, what's up?
Like, what is he doing? Where is he? What's he doing?
We're probably talking fishing. Okay, Maya, you got to move. Oh no!
It was such a good time. We had a blast.
Move.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
My dog's trying to climb on my lap. You're too big for that.
She's a sweetheart.
Isn't she?
Mm-hmm. She really is. You don't even know she's around. She's so good. Don't even know she's there. I kept forgetting she was there. There were so many points where I was like, "Oh yeah, they do have a dog. Oh yeah, they brought the dog." It was so good.
She's getting vocal now.
That's because she hears my voice. She misses me. Her and I shared the back seat the whole weekend.
Yeah, like she's a weird dog, man. Like she doesn't like to we go camping, everybody's chilling outside. No, she's got to either be in the truck or in the camper.
Hmm.
She loves being in the truck.
Yeah, that's her favorite.
What kind of a dog is it?
She's a shepherd.
Oh.
Here, I'll show you.
Oh, she's gorgeous. So beautiful.
I hope you can see her.
Nice.
I mean, she literally, Jeff, I kid you not, I have a few photos that I took of her. She looks like Anubis. Like perfect ears, perfect, literally.
Got to teach her to be one of those canine drug dogs.
Oh, man.
She bust me. What are you kidding me?
No, it's so when all your friends come over and they're holding, she'll tell you, hey, this guy's got weed.
My one-eyed wonder dog.
Yeah, she's a good girl.
She's a cool dog.
And Stevie has to send me that footage. He keeps forgetting.
You got footage?
From the murder cabin. That was crazy. That was creepy.
There we go.
That was
Close
creepy.
enough.
Stevie and I call it the murder cabin.
Mr. Lee says he has a dog ghost presence in his house. Big dog, but he doesn't show himself.
He feels
I've
them
seen-
sniffing his balls all the time, but he never sees them.
I've seen shadows around this house.
When I'm sleeping, I can
Like
feel it
dog
sniffing
shadows.
me.
All right, this is too bright.
Oh, he says non-active.
Ms. Dill, no, I really don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Lee, I was listening to Lee from Ravens Outpost today. He kind of got on that.
Yeah.
It's not just trains, it's semis too that are having chemical spills. And one thing
Really?
that I heard was that in the last, or what was it? Okay, a week ago, if we back up 1 week and then take the week prior to that when all the balloon stuff was going on,
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning of the balloon thing, I think the dates were like from the 5th of February to the 18th of February. So that 12, 13-day period, train and truck spills of chemicals were 5 times the average. Now, that's not to say that some of that isn't cyclic. Maybe sometimes they go 10 days and don't have any, and sometimes nationally, maybe they're 3 times the average. But it was really weird that there was 5 times the average across the U.S. during that time period.
Well, we were having a whole lot of crazy weather, so where maybe some of them like contributed to, like maybe the roads were slick or
Well,
heavy
some of
rain.
them were truly catastrophic. I mean, that one that was it in Michigan? The train derailment one there, and then there was one down in
Palestine,
Arizona.
Ohio.
In Ohio.
There was one
Yeah.
down in Arizona
Ohio,
too.
and then Arizona was the most recent one, I believe.
Arizona, they had to evacuate a whole town there for like
I don't even know
5
where that
days.
happened. I didn't see the news on that. I just heard that there was
Isn't
a
that
train
funny
derailment.
how it works like that though sometimes? It's like something that is like so catastrophic like that gets literally zero press.
Well, it's what do they want to talk about? I mean,
Well, they
at
were
the time,
distracting us with
Chinese
shooting
weather
shit
balloons
down out of
was
the
the talk
sky.
of the town at the time. So that's what they're going to talk about,
Yeah. Well, on my show last night, we talked about and I was so surprised because, like, when somebody kind of had mentioned this to me, and then I went and Googled it and I was looking into it, and I'm like, hell yes, I'm going to talk about this on my show. So, yesterday was President's Day. And, a lot of people are talking about how there's egg shortages and that there's, all of this like conspiracy to stop, like that they're putting chemicals in the chicken feed and stopping the chickens from, laying eggs. Well, when I went to research this thing. And so Lyndon B. Johnson in 1966 actually gave an order because he felt like the egg prices were too high. And in 1966, he gave an order to the Surgeon General to tell the public that eggs are bad for you. And that's what they did. So that's you remember like back in the day we were told eggs, oh you should
It
only
didn't
limit
stop
yourself to X
anybody
amount
from
of
eating
eggs.
them though, really.
But it did. No, but it did. It actually did. Because people started believing the fact that their pseudoscience was telling, like, you're going to have heart attacks and die if you eat too many eggs because you have cholesterol and this and this and this and that. And yeah, it actually worked. So it's kind of like all it takes is like for them to have a specific agenda. Nobody knew that that's really what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And how he ended up accomplishing that is a scary thought. Because
Well, what I don't get right now is the whole explanation for high egg prices is complete bullshit. And it is so
There's no
easy.
shortage.
It's so easy to break
No.
the myth. No, here's where the connection is. Remember where eggs come from. Okay. So if this is a problem if this is a problem with feed, if it's a problem with feed, then how come we go to Walmart and chicken breasts are still the same damn price they were a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? They haven't changed. KFC hasn't raised their price on a 20-piece bucket of chicken. It's the same. Okay, exactly the same. So I'm not buying
I'm
that
just
this
saying
is
it's a narrative that people are spinning and conspiracies that they're trying to to
No.
fuel. You know what I'm saying?
I get that, but my point is chickens aren't being affected. The cost of chicken isn't being affected. Yet the reasons that they're giving us for high egg prices, you'd imagine that half the chickens have died because of this problem. And they haven't. They haven't. None of them have. And it's not the cost to ship it, because it costs the same to ship that package of chicken legs to the store as it does the dozen eggs. That cost hasn't risen for eggs over everything else at the store. So this is an easily bustable theory that this is bullshit. And yet nobody's realistically doing it. We're just buying into it, saying, I guess we just have to endure it and put up with it for a while. It's stupid. There's one thing that's happening. Distributors of eggs and wholesalers of eggs are making more money right now.
That's it.
And that is it. That is it. The guy raising the damn chickens to slaughter for Tyson Foods and all them, they aren't making more money, but the egg producers are. That has nothing to do then with chicken feed or any of that other bullshit they're feeding us.
It's Jill. What are you apologizing for? She says, sorry, Mobs, just kind of important. I'm just seeing if she had said something else.
I think she was just talking about the spills.
Eggs.
I think she was just talking about the spills, you know. When originally you said, I don't really want to talk about it, but
no, I really don't.
I don't either, because it's
depressing, and prayers. And if anybody is in here that is affected by it, I apologize. I'm not trying to be.
I really feel like the spills isn't connected to any of this. I think it's just a cyclic thing. If you looked at how many small planes crash in a 30-day period, there's going to be some 30-day periods where it's 3 times the normal amount, and there's going to be some 30-day periods where it's only a third of the normal amount. I mean, it just is kind of a rubber banding deal. And perhaps that's simply all this derailment chemical spill thing is. Also could be the fact that a lot of these are going on and nobody ever pays attention to it. And once a few people start talking about it, all of a sudden everybody's looking with a microscope at it. And we're like, wow, that's a lot of them. Is it really that much more than it was last year? You know? And I think somebody mentioned in chat, until it becomes a hazmat situation, a lot of times it's never reported on at all. So does that train derail, or does that truck spill something in a rural area where it doesn't affect anybody? Or if it does it near a town, all of a sudden that's the deciding factor of whether you even hear about it or not, you know? Could be a location thing. But
Lee had some interesting footage today. The one, there's a train parked. There's a woman showing a train, just a chemical train parked miles long, parked in the middle of nowhere. It's at the end of a track, like in somewhere in California. And they're like, what the hell is this doing here? You know, these are like ranchers and farms, and this train doesn't belong there, and yet it's sitting there. It's like, why?
Well, and it was a chemical, like it had chemical cars on it? Or?
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, I wonder what it was carrying. So a lot of these trains transport fuel. A lot of them transport dairy. A lot of them transport chemical. I mean, a lot of those cars kind of look the same until you start getting close enough to see what markers they have on them. And
well, the thing that was interesting to me, and I'm sorry, I promise, Russell, I'll leave it alone. I just want to say this one thing. I was, you know, in the very beginning when the news kind of started breaking on this particular story in Ohio, they had security footage from someplace 20 miles away from where the train actually derailed, and it was already on fire. So there was something going on 20 miles away from where it actually this disaster ended up happening. And
so you're saying before the train got to where it derailed, it was already on fire?
Yes, it was already. There were flames shooting out from underneath it, and you could see.
You know, some of those trains get going pretty damn fast too.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going 60 mile an hour down the railroad tracks, and in 20 minutes they could cover that distance.
Yeah, but they're built to go that fast. It's not like friction caused the flames. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
but I'm
I'm just
saying,
saying, I'm just
even
saying,
if
but
somebody
nobody's talking
started one
about
on
that part
fire,
anymore. No
even
one's
if
talking
somebody,
about it. You know what I mean? Like they're just talking about like that it happened, but I find that very weird. Like how and why
I'm
would
just
that have
saying, even
happened?
if it
You
was
know?
nefarious, Marty, even if somebody started a car on fire, let's say, in 20 minutes, it could travel 20 miles before it was to a point where it blew up or caused a
Mhm.
derailment or something like that. I mean, it's hard to say without knowing the whole story of
Yeah.
what.
Well, that's what I'm saying. No one's talking it. Like when it first
So there
happened,
was already an issue before the derailment,
right. So there was something going
an
on with
obvious
the
issue.
train. So it's kind of like it's not like it was a driver error or I mean, a conductor's error. I mean,
It's a
there was
good
something going on.
it's a good
You know?
example of once you get a government agency involved, nobody's allowed to look at anything.
Let's get an
National
inside
transportation.
opinion, guys. What's up,
Yes,
Jay?
Jay. Hi. Hi, honey.
Got that Einstein hair going.
Mwah.
All right, let me tell you about trains. I worked
Yes.
40 years on a railroad. If that thing was on fire, they're running trains so long nowadays that unless there's a real long curve, it's our responsibility when we go around curves to turn around and watch our trains. We turn around and we give sight to our trains. But the curve, these trains are so long nowadays. You're talking some of these trains are 2.5, almost 3 miles long.
Yeah.
Okay. It's impossible to see something, especially with weather conditions. If it's foggy, cloudy days. Now, if it was on fire and it was closer, I'm talking about within 6 car lengths, the crew probably would have saw it. Also, every 20 to 30 miles, they have these detectors we go over that pick up wheels that catch on fire.
Okay.
The wheels have bearings in them, okay? They're metal bearings, and they go round and round, and occasionally those bearings will give out, catch on fire. Oh, God. I worked 40 years. I had 3 cars in 40 years of work that I had to set out because the wheels locked up on them because the bearings were bad. So it's very unfrequent. But if it was on fire, I guarantee you that's what it was. The bearings caught on fire. The crew didn't see it. The detector, they probably caught on fire between the 2 detectors, and the wheel burned off and it derailed.
So as long as you got a straight shot with nothing giving you
Right.
even the opportunity to do a visual inspection on
Right.
all the cars, you can
Correct.
go a 20-mile stretch at fairly high speed, not be aware that something's on fire.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden it reaches a catastrophic enough heat,
it burns off.
temperature, or something that
it's just like if you're riding down a road in a vehicle and your tire came off. Okay. Except you're talking about tons and tons and tons of freight. People don't realize how much tonnage. You take an average truck weigh, a semi will weigh anywhere from 60,000 to 100,000. Depends on what they're carrying. If they're carrying grain or something like that, they're going to weigh around 80 to 100,000 pounds. Rail cars weigh hundreds of thousands of tons. They don't weigh pounds, they weigh tons, okay? And a grain car will have 120 tons of grain in it. Not pounds, tons of grain in it. I had a train one time, it had 260 cars in it. It had 17,400 tons of freight. Not pounds, tons of freight. Okay. 260 cars. It was 3.5 miles long. That's how long this train was.
Wow.
So it would have been totally impossible on tangent track. Tangent track is straight track. Okay. I would have ever seen anything back there. Okay. That's your education on trains.
I appreciate that. I really do,
Thanks,
Jay.
Jay.
Thank you.
I think a lot of that is a lot of people's perception of an event like a derailment simply just is kind of skewed a little bit. You know, you're thinking, oh, something was placed on the track, it hit it, it tipped something. Oh, you know, you don't realize that if a wheel bearing goes out, that train could cover a lot of distance before that became to a point where it was a failure and caused a derailment.
I'll give you, for instance, I had a 110 car coal train one time. It weighed 14,000 tons. I went in emergency. It was loaded coal train. I went in emergency on tangent track, which is tangent means level straight track. That's what it means. Mm-hmm. It took me 1.75 miles to stop that train to stop. Once you go in emergency, you lose all control of your train. The train is on its own then. That's why you never put a train in emergency. Emergency is when you dump all your air, folks, and all your air brakes come on. You never put a train in emergency unless you had to, because if you put it in emergency, you have no control over the train. The slack action of a train, it's out of your hands then. Okay.
And you can't just regain control of it either. It's in that mode. You're not getting it back out of it.
Right. In that mode. That's what happens when a train goes in emergency. When that wheel burn off, that crew had no control of that train from their own.
That's the last hope.
That's the last straw.
And Jay, how fast do they generally travel? I mean,
all railroads have different. Out west, they run passenger trains run up to 90 to 110 miles an hour. Mostly up on the northern quarter between Chicago and New York. Mm-hmm. I was passenger qualified, but we didn't have passenger trains on my division. Freight trains, all trains are different. Coal trains are 50 miles an hour. Grain train, your big heavy trains are 50 miles an hour. Regular freight trains are 60 to 70.
Do you think? Are they often? Do you think it's common for engineers to run faster than that speed, or is it really regulated?
No, it's regulated by the federal.
You couldn't run faster without somebody knowing. He couldn't have got from A to B without going too fast, right? So
that's true. It's federal. We had federal regulations we had to run under.
I know some of these regulations out here in the Midwest, like in Nebraska and the Dakotas, where these trains are just running across open ground. It's crazy how fast.
70 miles. They're probably doing 70 miles an hour.
Well, I know for a fact that when you go, like in Nebraska, when I pull the snowmobiles out to Laramie, Wyoming, I have to go south to Omaha and then run straight west all the way across the middle of Nebraska, east to west. And there's a railroad track that runs on the north side of the interstate, about 100 yards over, that runs parallel to it. And when you go from like Lincoln, Nebraska to North Platte, Nebraska, which is a 100+ mile stretch down the interstate heading west, you're running parallel to that track. And I've gone 80 miles an hour down that interstate before, and there's a freaking train that I'm not passing it. It's like we're in a drag race for miles. It's crazy how fast they're going.
We got cowboys on. We call them cowboys that like to exceed the speed limit. Yeah, I'll put it this way. I can't say that I never didn't do that. Okay. But
allegedly.
I didn't. I'll put it this way.
Say allegedly, Jay. And then
it depends. A lot of times it depends on if I had a date waiting on me or not.
Well, and some of it might be situational. If you're going across an area in a town that, let's say, has a car accident there, and so they've slowed your train down before you get there, or they've stopped you there, and they clear that track, and 15 minutes later you're going, that whatever terminal or whatever you're trying to get to, in order for all the other railroad traffic to stay on time, you've got some makeup ball to run now. So I mean, I can see where
occasionally,
maybe even encourage times they tell you to run a little faster. But
of course, we had they're not really supervisors; they're called train masters, and they would come out. They're just like policemen. They had radar guns, and they would shoot you with radar and stuff like that. But usually, a lot of times, if you had good ones, they would kind of give you a warning. They'd get on the radio, and you could hear them chatting and stuff like that, and you knew they were out running around, so you kept your train under control, you know. But I'm not.
Jay, did you ever see?
Well, I lasted 40 years out there, never got fired, and so I must have been doing something right. I put it that way.
That's right.
Did you ever watch the series Hell on Wheels, Jay?
And about that
Did you ever
train,
see
hold on, Jeff. About that train, there was nobody on it a while ago. Russ, the train crews, they are so hurting right now. The railroads are hiring. If anybody needs a job, they're so short of crews right now. They're having to park a lot of trains because they just got nobody to run them. They got no crews to run them.
Wow. So did you ever see the series Hell on Wheels?
You're Russell, you're muted. Okay.
Thanks.
Jay, did
Jeff
you
was
ever
asking a question about-
see the series, the TV series Hell on Wheels? Did you ever see that?
Oh yeah.
Had an actor named Anson Mount who plays Colin Bohannon, but it's a Western series with gunfights and all that, kind of framed around the race west to east and east to west with the railroads back in the. It's like they almost created that series for you, Jay. I mean, it would be something that I think you would really be interested in.
But they're so big and long anymore, and they wasn't quite as big back in the day when, of course, these big coal trains and grain trains, they can't run them but so long because they just knuckles are on the end of the car. They're called knuckles, and they go together like that. They can't stand but so much torque before they'll pull apart, and they just about at the limit now. About 120 cars on a coal train. About 17,000 ton is about the limit of knuckles. So they really,
There's a business kind of where I grew up east of Sioux Falls, South Dakota now that has a company that basically refurbishes trains. I mean, a car can only run so long before it basically has to be rebuilt top to bottom. And this is a company that does it. It's a huge company, huge rail yard. They've got like 3,000 people that work there, and I think 2,000 of them are just welders. It's crazy. And these guys make good money doing that. But
well, trains still handle over 50% of the freight in the United States. Can you imagine how many trucks would be on a road if there wasn't for rail trains?
Yes.
They wouldn't have enough drivers to have it. And there's just two people on the train. It was me, the engineer, and the conductor. That's all it was. Can you imagine how many trucks it would take to handle 15,000 tons of freight?
There's a business that I'm invested in Wisconsin. It's a white sand business. So 2 big mines where we dig really fine white silica sand out of it, and we ship it to Texas. And oil drillers use it because when they drill a hole and pipe oil out of it for 60 days, when that goes dry, in about 90 days, they can start taking oil back out of that thing. But if they use brown sand, or what most of these places were using as sand, they have to move the platform over and start re-drilling. Whereas if they use this white sand as they're drilling, they can pull the bit out of it and re-drill back through this white sand because it's fine enough. And the only reason why I bring this up is the amount of white sand coming out of these few mines in Wisconsin. And like I said, I got involved with 2 of them. There's 138 total in the US, and they're almost all in Wisconsin. But they have a rail set up where the trains pull up, and it's by train. They transport the sand to Texas, and they'll transport it to the fracking rigs up in North Dakota. But me not knowing anything about it when I got involved with it, I was like, why can't we use 18-wheelers, stuff like that? They're like, do you realize how much we're talking about? And I'm like, no. And they're like, 280,000 tons a month they're running by rail out of there. And I'm like, draw a picture for me. How many train cars? And it's like, dude, I cannot believe, I mean, nonstop there'd have to be trains running through it, and there is. And sometimes, unless you live right next to a track like that, I don't think you really get an idea of the pulse in this country that we do rail transport, because it's crazy. You drive, I mean, you think about it. You go on a drive, like if I went and drove from here to Florida or here to Phoenix, maybe there's 7, 8, 9 trains I'd see along the way. But you don't realize that track, how many trains are running down those tracks constantly. It's crazy.
Well, we averaged my division.
Poor Russell, he's sitting there going, wait a minute, didn't I say that I didn't want to talk about this?
No. I'm listening. I'm reading chat.
My division, we averaged over 100 trains a day just on my division. My division was 214 miles long, and we averaged over 100 trains a day. That's a lot. But we had some really long sidings. We had sidings there where some of them were up to 3 miles long.
Wow.
And yeah, and we had high speed turnouts. That's where that goes into a siding. We had sidings you could enter at 40 miles an hour. So they're called high speed turnouts. So a lot of our meets, we never slowed down. You might slow down and especially if you had a lighter train, you slow down and wait for your signal, in a 3 mile run. But a lot of times we never even had to slow down.
Do they have, like how they have on some like mountain roads, how they'll have like those runoffs for 18-wheelers to
no.
You can't really do that with a train.
You can't do that with a train, honey.
Oh, okay.
Because a train is steered by the tracks. It's one direction.
Right. I didn't have a steering wheel up there, honey.
No, just a brake and a gas.
You want to go on
what it looks like in there. I have no idea.
You want to go on a crazy train ride? Go up to Donald Fuller and Mrs. Dills this is in New Hampshire, not where they're at in Vermont, but in New Hampshire, northern New Hampshire in the White Mountains, where Mount Washington is, they have what's called the Cog Railway. And it is a train engine with a couple open-sided passenger cars that go up the side of Mount Washington. And just for the record, Mount Washington is where the highest wind speed has ever been recorded.
And probably the coldest temperatures in the United States.
Yeah, and it was like 240 mile an hour wind that they recorded there, something crazy like that. It's always windy there. But you get on this little coal-burning train going up the side of this huge mountain. It's like you're holding on for dear life, and yet they run it every day. They bring people up there. It's a tourist thing.
Patrick Vaughn has a good question.
Let me look. A little behind.
Any inside scoop?
I've thought of that too. Any inside scoop on train engineers seeing Bigfoot?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I've heard of incidents, I'll put it that way, but I saw the one I saw in the woods, but I think
it'd be interesting to talk to train engineers that are running these routes across Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. That area where they connect the Pacific Northwest to Chicago, St. Louis, those areas. There are so many trains that run through, especially now with all the oil production in North Dakota, trains that are running across that northern Rocky Mountain region, I think that would be the engineers that would be interesting to talk to, because it is remote where those trains are running out. They're very remote.
We don't even, in the last 10 years of my running career, we didn't even have speed limits through towns anymore. They lifted all speed limits through towns. At one time, like my hometown, train went through, used to, you had to slow down to, when I first hired on, 25 mile an hour. But I came through at 60 and 70s a lot in the last 10 years of my career.
I got a friend who owns the Harley dealership in Missoula, Montana, and he told me one time the Amtrak train runs through there at 110, I think he said 110 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, if you're standing there and you see that train go by, it's like an F-16 flying by trying to knock you over. Just the sound and the vibration. And
the only fear that I had running a train was hitting a gasoline truck. That was the only fear.
Everything else was going to just be removed.
Yeah. Oh, I hit a couple of them. I hit one semi and split it right half in two.
Oh my gosh.
But I was always scared of. He got hung up on the crossing. He hung his trailer up on the crossing. I hit that thing right there where the fifth wheel is.
We had an accident here about 2 weeks ago. Guy was driving with his wife and 2 daughters in their car, and was a snowstorm going on. He drove across train tracks that for some reason the lights didn't come on. There was some, it wasn't one that had the whole gate that comes up and down. It was just on a highway, kind of a rural area, blacktop highway that has the little white X's with the red lights that start flashing on them. Just on little street signs on each side. And those lights weren't going off. And as he drove across that track, he got T-boned by this train, and it killed all 4 of them. And it was just like, whoa. Everybody read the news reports like, dude, how can you be stupid enough to get hit by a train, right? I mean, how do you not know a train's coming? But visibility was bad in a snowstorm, and there was a failure with the light to come on. So I would imagine whoever's left in that family is going to sue the living shit out of the railroad for those lights.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If it's railroad, yeah. They got a lawsuit on their hands if it's railroad. But I tell you what, no, I'm not going to say that. I could get myself in trouble. So I'm going to say
I think that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why you feel accountable, Jay, to be following the rules that are in place. Is what's at hand there? I mean,
you can get fired.
Oh, you can get a lot worse than fired, probably.
Oh yeah. I had
civil suits and everything that would come outside of the railroad towards whoever was driving that train or making critical decisions. That would be horrible.
Well, you don't want to really trains. When you're on a train, you're thinking miles and miles ahead. You're not thinking what's in front of you right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about your terrain miles ahead of it. What am I going to do with this big, heavy son of a bitch? I had one mountain. I went down one mountain that was 11 miles downhill. I had to be thinking, how was I going to handle trains over? We had a lot of we were like humpbacks, just one little small hill after another. And sometimes your train will be it'll be in stretched and slack and stretched and slack in different forms all the way through there. So you had to really, I had to be thinking what's going on behind me and what's going on ahead of me all the time,
So what some people might not understand is what you just said about the stretch and the slack. Because when all the cars are hooked up, guys, and the engineer starts to pull it forward, he pulls it forward, and you hear that clink, 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 clink.
Yeah, it's acceleration versus deceleration.
Well, no, it's also everything's got to be tight before you can take off.
That's right, absolutely.
And so when he's going over these hills, those buckles are just going like this.
Yeah,
right. You got different weight cars. You might have a car that's empty, and one that's 130 tons. Or 2 or 3 behind it, it's going to push that empty car. So it's going to cause slack. That's called, and there's an average of 8 to 12 inches of slack in every car. So if you got 100 cars, you got 80 feet of slack in it, or 120 foot of slack in that train. That's a lot of slack action.
Hell yeah.
See, people can say this is an educational channel, Mogs. People are learning tonight about trains from the
And I
master
appreciate
engineer
it
here.
very much, Jay. I really do.
I ran. I'm not. This is not bragging, but in my last 15 years of running trains, I had more. We call them cub engineers with me because they like to run with me because I never tore trains up. I had in 40 years, I got one knuckle and one drawbar, but the drawbar was already 80% nut busted when it came out. It was already almost busted. And the drawbar weighs 800 pounds. So the drawbar is what's the slack action. That's what holds the whole unit of the knuckles and everything together. I had 7 collisions with cars, 3 fatalities, and one of those was a suicide. A kid committed suicide in front of my train.
Did any of those incidents that you were involved in, I mean, did any of those kind of give you like a PTSD or, I mean, like a,
Well, I can still
with your mind? I mean,
I can
would
still
think
see
so.
that it was a young soldier boy, and he just never. When you're on a train, we have people along the sides of tracks in towns. Every town, you're going to have people walking alongside the tracks or in the tracks, and you expect any second they're just going to step out of your way, you know. And this young boy, he just walked. I can still see his face today. He just walked right into me. He just committed suicide, you know.
In a lot of these metro areas too, now with opioid addiction and everything being at just blown away record highs, a lot of these people, those are the areas that they're tending to congregate to. So I think you see more deaths because of that type of thing.
But
if you work for the railroad though, and you have an office and you're making the decisions, who are you going to have train all the rooks? You're going to pick the guy who doesn't break shit. So that's probably why they had you.
Yeah, I like to say, I bet the last 15 years of my railroad, I never broke a knuckle or anything. I was in 2 derailments, but neither one of them was my fault.
But I would imagine, Jay, it's got a lot to do with probably your disposition. You were probably very calm, very steady, and you were, probably very patient with people, and you know what I mean? Like,
well, I had the president.
Into it.
I had the president of the CSX Railroad. I worked for CSX Corporation, and we were in a siding one day, and he came up and got on my train. I saw this bunch of cars pull up along the siding, and here comes in his big suit and everything, got on my train. He wanted to ride to the next terminal. We had another coal terminal. It was about 40 miles before I went into my home terminal, and he wanted to ride on that train with him. Well, at one time, this gentleman, I'm not going to give his name, at one time he was a engineer at one time too. And I was sitting over running my train, and he said, "Man, you're smooth at handling this thing." I said, "Well, I just run it by my britches, sir. I said, I know how it feels. I know what every car in this train is doing." He said, "Do you mind if I pull that throttle a little bit?" In other words, I said, "In due respect, sir, this train is my responsibility, and I don't let nobody sit in this seat." And you know what he said? He said, "That's exactly what I wanted to hear from you."
Right on.
That's awesome, Jay.
You kind of knew it was a test.
Yeah.
This is a trick question.
Miss Dill, I think she says, "Pretty sure if a conductor seen his train on fire, he wouldn't have kept rolling. Give me a Kit Kat bar and give me a break." Well, no, like you explained, Jay. I mean, in a straight run on a long train, they might,
But that, like I say, once you have an accident like that, once it's happened, you got a national safety board, government-run organization. It gets involved, And none of these reports are going to tell you, well, that train was running on a 20-mile straight run prior to the derailment. I mean, they don't put that kind of stuff out where guys like Jay and hundreds of others who have worked in that industry can say, well, that's what happened then. They keep that all under wraps, and they keep everybody wondering what's going on for whatever reason. It's just stupid. I mean, you could have put Jay on that scene, and in 3 hours of driving that 20 miles and looking at it, he could have told you what happened. Probably.
Probably.
But we never find that shit out because they don't let people know that.
But if it was on fire before, if it was on fire, I guarantee you, if it was already on fire, I can give you a 90% that the axle was already burning. I can tell you right now it was.
So what would happen in that case? The wheel falls off?
Yeah, it'll just burn off. The wheel will actually just burn off.
It's like the bearings going out on a front wheel on one of your truck, I suppose, Modes. You drive down the interstate, pretty soon it's glowing red. Pretty soon all your brakes are glowing red on that wheel. And pretty soon the heat gets so bad, spindles let go and the axle just snaps and it's gone. Eventually enough heat's going to build up where it becomes catastrophic, but it might take a considerable amount of time to actually reach that point.
Yeah, it usually, I had one catch on fire on me one time between detectors, and the second detector picked it up, and those two detectors were a good 30 miles apart. So it takes a while from it.
That's a distance. Yeah,
that's some distance. Yeah. It's rare. It sounds like it's everyday occurrence, but it's not. It's rare to burn an axle off. Very rare. Usually, if it's dragging or anything dragging, they'll also pick those detectors will also pick up dragging equipment. And let's say
so they don't just sense temperature; they probably sense a vibrational difference that's out of normal or something.
Right, or a car gets out of skew. They sense everything. Anything dragging them. Those bends, sometimes a door will drop on them.
Oh yeah,
the pins will come out and a door will drop on them, and they'll pick up anything like that.
Wow.
Didn't know that. Where are we at?
Well, guys, I'm going to call it a night. I'm exhausted and I got to get up.
Hey, Marty. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah.
It was nice
seeing
you.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a great
night,
guys.
You had your train education
night.
tonight. You've had your train education tonight, so I'm going to check out too. Y'all have a great night.
Yeah.
All right, Jay. Thank you so much for all that information. That was awesome.
Yeah. I really appreciate it very much, Jay. I really do.
I'll pop off too, Mug, so you can land your plane here.
Right on.
Good night,
All right,
everybody.
guys.
Good night, everybody in chat.
See you guys
Thanks so
later.
much.
Oh, try again. I thought Jeff would. Never mind. Well, guys, that's another 2-hour show already. Damn, it's like the other day. I was like, oh yeah, we still got time. I just lost. Oh, my other dog. I didn't know she was still here. What's up, Luce? Hardly see her anymore. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for showing up tonight. I hope you guys had a good time. We'll be doing this again Thursday, and thanks, Jay, Jeff, Marty. It was good talking to you. And guys, don't get me wrong. I just didn't want to, as far as talking about the train derailment, it's a little depressing, and I didn't want to. I try to keep this a little more upbeat, and prayers, to all the families that were involved in Ohio and Arizona with these train derailments. Hopefully these are just accidents, It's just weird that all this shit starts, one thing goes wrong and then something else goes wrong, I guess when it rains, it pours. Anyway. All right, guys. If you guys enjoyed the show, please hit that like button below. If you're new, subscribe. Also, share it out. Let's get the word out there. Let's get more people hanging out here. I know I always said I don't want to expand. But I think we can handle it in chat. We see new names. Chat goes by a little bit quicker, not too much, but yeah. And for you new people that are sitting there watching, you can hit that button and join me. Hit the link in chat and come hang out. You got something you want to talk about? That's what we're here for. That's why I did this for you guys. But yeah, thank you, everybody. I'll see you Thursday. Guys, take care of each other and take care of yourselves. All right. All right. Peace and God bless.